All right, guys, part two from the warring city-states. So we talked a little bit about Sparta and Athens. Now, remember, these city-states were not considered together. They were not united as Greeks. They were both their own thing, Athens and Sparta. Um, but we're going to talk about the Persian Empire coming in, trying to conquer Greece, and that's going to unite both the city-states. So in the early 400 BC, we saw the Greek city-states would ultimately come into conflict with the Persian Empire, who was wanting to conquer the area. A lot of this comes down to Darius, which we talked a little bit about when we talked about the Persians in chapter 4. Roots of the Persian War go all the way back to Ionia in what is now Turkey. The Ionian city-states were founded as Greek colonies and fell to the Persians in 500 BC. Ionian Greeks were unhappy with the Persian rule, so they wanted independence and rebelled in 499 BC. And so they asked for help from the Greeks in Athens, since made and ships. Persians ultimately put down the revolt, but this angered Darius, which is your answer to number 9. All this in the yellow. The revolt made Darius so angry that he was like, "I'm going to get revenge. I'm coming after you." So he planned to punish the Ionian allies, especially Athens, attacking Greece mainland. We see that the first invasion happened in 490 BC. The Persians set out to fulfill Darius's plans for revenge. The fleet, carrying about 10 of thousands of Persian troops, set out for Greece, came ashore near the town of Marathon. We see that eventually, warned in advance, the Greeks arrived at Marathon. The phalanx is right here, tight tight rectangle formation. Basically caught up with the Persians unloading their ships, charged with the phalanx, tight rectangle formation in this battle, and were able to put down the Persians, who then counterattacked, but more Greeks had closed in and were able to force them to retreat, and there was a Greek victory. So it turned out very successful. We see that the legendary legend says that Athens had sent a messenger from the Marathon to Athens to go announce the victory. But in his ability to give this long run, he died and collapsed after running 26 miles, and so while after delivering the message. And basically, the race is commemorating the dedication to athleticism to that man, or to basically delivered the message of the victory. So, in preparations for a second invasion, the Greek victory at Marathon shocked both the Greeks and the Persians. Athenians could not believe that they actually had defeated their stronger foe. Persians were humiliated, furious, and Darius planned a second invasion, but ultimately died before the invasion was launched. And son Xerxes was vowed to revenge to continue to plan attack in Greece. We see Xerxes, your definition for here, 400 BC, 10 years after the first invasion, set out for Greece. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, sailors, animals, weapons were sent. Greek accounts say the Persian army was so huge that it took them weeks to cross one bridge with what they brought. Athens is now forced to face the Persians and fight them off. Athens had to deal with their bitter rival as well to ask for help, and that would be Sparta. Athens would need Sparta, and Sparta would need Athens, because Athens had the ships, the navy, where Sparta had the army, the military to do so. Second invasion and aftermath, we see the Greeks were worried that they would not have time to prepare, so the Spartans would gather at the mountain at Thermopylae, and through which the Persians would pass to get into Greece. And so these Spartans were off to hold off the entire Persian army for several days. Persians show an alternate path, though, in the mountains, and were able to surround and kill the Spartans. But the Spartan sacrifice was able to get the Greeks enough time to prepare and to ultimately fend off the Spartans. Now, this is based off of 300, Frank Miller's graphic novel, which then got turned into a movie by Zack Snyder. Now, in the movie, it was 300 soldiers, but in actual real life, it might have been thousands of soldiers. But it is true, yes, they held off the Persians to give Athens and Sparta enough time to prepare and defeat. But after Thermopylae, the Persians marched south to Athens, attacked, burning the city, bringing additional supplies. The Athenian commander lured the fleet narrow strait of the battle Salamis, cutting off the Persians and leaving them a little room to move. Your answer number 8 is everything in the yellow here. Greek warships cut cut them into pieces. Persian army was no longer a match for the Greeks, and ultimately we see the Greeks had won the Persian War once again. So the Persian Wars had occurred from 490 to 479 BC. Marathon is right here in Greece, and then you had Thermopylae was where the Spartans held off the Persians, and then you see the Greek were holding them off in the mountains, and then the Persians first faced them head on, and then eventually found a way around and were able to crush them. And then here is Salamis as where the final battle would occur. Because of the success with the threat ended from the Persians, all Greek city states felt that the sense of confidence and freedom. Athens emerged as the leader of the Delian League, which had grown to some 200 city states and began to use its power to control other league members. City states became a little more than provinces of the Athenian Empire, and the prestige of the victory over the Persians brought Athens a lot of wealth and an empire that set the stage for a dazzling burst of creativity in Athens, entering a brief golden age, but also creating conflict, which we're going to talk about in the next section, section 3, which caused conflict between Sparta and Athens. All right, we'll see you then.